Imagine turning $1,000 into $35,000 in just 9 months, or being a college student treated like a VIP high roller in Las Vegas. Sounds like a Hollywood movie, right? But this was the real-life adventure of the MIT Blackjack Team, a group of brilliant students who used their brains to beat the casinos at their own game. Ever wondered how a bunch of college kids managed to outsmart the gambling industry and walk away with millions? Think of a straight-A student from Harvard postponing his education to try his luck at gambling. Sounds crazy, right? That's exactly what Bill Kaplan did, and it all started with a book. Kaplan had read about card counting, a technique that uses math to beat the odds at blackjack. He was convinced he could turn this theory into reality. Despite his mother's disbelief and concern about what to tell her friends, Kaplan's stepfather was more open-minded. He challenged Bill to play against him every night to prove he could win. And when he did, crushing his stepfather for 2 weeks straight. With a bit of reluctant approval, Kaplan took $1,000 to Las Vegas in 1977. In just 9 months, he turned that into $35,000. Kaplan's success wasn't just a fluke, it was the beginning of a fascinating journey. After his Vegas adventure, he went back to Harvard, graduated, and continued to play blackjack around the world. His life took a dramatic turn when a small group of MIT students, dabbling in card counting, overheard him talking about his Vegas exploits. They were intrigued and bold enough to approach him, asking if he would train and manage them. This meeting was serendipitous. Kaplan saw an opportunity to take his skills to the next level. These weren't just any students, they were some of the brightest minds from MIT. Kaplan agreed to train them, and thus, the MIT Blackjack Team was born. It wasn't just about playing cards, it was about applying rigorous math and strategic thinking to outsmart the casinos. Kaplan's experience and the students' intelligence created a formidable combination. In 1992, with the gambling industry booming and mega casinos popping up everywhere, Kaplan and his partners decided it was time to go big. They formed a company called Strategic Investments, raising a whopping $1 million from friends and investors. Their plan was ambitious: train a new batch of students to card count and then unleash them on the casinos. One of these students was Mike Aponte, a 22-year-old unsure about his future but eager to learn. The formation of the team was a meticulous process. Kaplan didn't just teach them how to count cards, he trained them to think and act like high rollers. They practiced for hours in empty classrooms until they could flawlessly execute their strategy. It was like preparing for a covert mission where every detail mattered. Card counting is all about keeping track of these cards to know when the odds are in your favor. It's not about memorizing every card, that would be impossible. Instead, you use a simple system to keep a running tally. When the count is high, it means there are more high cards left in the deck, so you bet big. When the count is low, you bet small or not at all. This method was popularized by Edward Thorpe, a mathematics professor from MIT. In the early 1960s, Thorpe used some of the first computers to develop his card counting strategy. He published his findings in a groundbreaking book called Beat the Dealer. This book didn't just outline the card counting technique, it revolutionized the way people thought about blackjack. Thorpe proved that blackjack could be beaten with a scientific approach, turning what many considered a game of luck into a game of skill. The MIT Blackjack Team took Thorpe's ideas and ran with them. They used a refined mathematical model that was even more precise and effective. Their strategy involved more than just counting cards. It included a team-based approach where different members had specific roles. There were spotters who played at low stakes to count cards and signaled to the big players when the count was favorable. The big players would then swoop in and place large bets, capitalizing on the favorable odds. But knowing the strategy wasn't enough. The team had to be flawless in their execution. This meant hours of rigorous training in empty classrooms. They practiced until they could count cards and place bets without a single mistake. It was intense and demanding, but it was necessary. They had to be able to operate under the high-pressure environment of a casino, where distractions and scrutiny were constant. The training wasn't just about the mechanics of card counting. The team also had to learn how to blend in and act the part of high rollers. This meant dressing up, adopting personas, and even learning to deal with the VIP treatment from casino hosts. Imagine going from eating in college canteens to being treated like royalty in luxury suites. It was a complete transformation, and they had to be convincing. In the early 90s, Bill Kaplan and his partners saw a golden opportunity. The casino industry was booming, with new mega casinos springing up left and right. They realized that with the right funding and management, they could take their card-counting operations to the next level. So they decided to form a company called Strategic Investments, designed to fund and manage the team's activities. The idea was simple but ambitious: raise a significant amount of money to bankroll the team's gambling exploits. Kaplan and his partners turned to their friends and previous investors, who had already seen impressive returns on smaller investments. They managed to raise an astounding $1 million. This wasn't just pocket change, it was a serious investment that showed just how much faith people had in Kaplan's strategy and the team's potential. With this substantial backing, the team could expand. They began recruiting more bright students, not just from MIT but also from other top universities like Harvard. These weren't just any students, they were some of the smartest minds around, and they were rigorously trained in card counting. The training was intense. Imagine hours spent in empty classrooms, practicing until they could count cards and signal bets without a single error. It was like preparing for a high-stakes performance, where one slip could mean the difference between winning big and getting kicked out of a casino. Life for these students became a bizarre double existence. During the week, they were regular college kids, attending lectures, studying for exams, and living in dorms. But on weekends, they transformed into high rollers. They would fly out to casinos, often greeted by VIP hosts who treated them like royalty. Picture this. One minute you're eating in the college canteen, the next you're being whisked up to a penthouse suite with a jacuzzi and pool table, all because the casino thinks you're a rich kid ready to gamble away a fortune. This VIP treatment was part of the strategy. The students had to look and act the part of wealthy gamblers to avoid suspicion. It was a bit like going undercover. For someone like Mike Aponte, this meant playing into stereotypes. As an Asian, he leaned into the casino's belief that Asians were big gamblers, crafting a persona of a spoiled rich kid from a wealthy family. It was all about maintaining the illusion, keeping the casino staff convinced that these were just young, affluent gamblers out for a good time. Life as a member of the MIT Blackjack Team was a roller coaster of highs and lows. Take Mike Aponte's first big night in Atlantic City, for example. He was handed $40,000 in cash to gamble with, a staggering amount for a 22-year-old student. But things didn't start well. In his first 10 minutes at the blackjack table, Mike lost $10,000. Can you imagine the sinking feeling of losing that much money so quickly? Despite the initial shock and a lavish VIP suite that he couldn't fully enjoy due to his losses, Mike stuck to the team's strategy. By the end of the weekend, he had turned things around and walked away with a net profit of about $25,000. It was a tough lesson in the volatility of blackjack, even with a solid system in place. Being part of the team came with some incredible perks. Casinos treated these young students like royalty, showering them with free food, drinks, and luxury accommodations. One moment they were in a dorm room, the next they were in a penthouse suite with all the amenities you could dream of. It was a lifestyle most college students could only fantasize about. But with the glamour came significant challenges. Handling large sums of money became routine, but it also led to some nerve-wracking situations. Once, a team member accidentally left a bag containing $125,000 in a classroom. It took 6 months and investigations by the Drug Enforcement Administration and the FBI before they got the money back. Such incidents highlighted the constant pressure and risk involved in their operations. The MIT Blackjack Team had a good run, but like all great stories, it had to come to an end. The team's decline began with increased detection by the casinos. The casinos weren't happy about losing money to these brilliant card counters, so they stepped up their game. They hired private detectives and implemented advanced surveillance techniques to catch the team in action. Imagine trying to play blackjack with security cameras zooming in on every move you make, and pit bosses trained to spot the slightest hint of card counting. It became a cat-and-mouse game, and the casinos were getting better at playing it. The detectives got creative too. They started piecing together the identities of the team members using various clues. One particularly clever method involved tracking addresses. Many team members were from Boston, and when a significant number of card counters caught were found to be from the same area, it wasn't hard to connect the dots back to MIT. The detectives even got hold of university yearbooks to match faces with names. It was only a matter of time before the net closed in on the team. With the pressure mounting and the risk of detection increasing, Bill Kaplan decided it was time to call it quits. In December 1993, he made the tough decision to dissolve Strategic Investments. Managing such a large and high-profile operation had become more of a headache than it was worth. Kaplan had to deal with not just the logistics of running a team spread across various locations, but also the constant fear of getting caught. The fun and excitement were being overshadowed by stress and potential legal issues. Reflecting on the venture, Kaplan had mixed feelings. On one hand, the team had accomplished something extraordinary. They had proven that with the right skills and strategy, the house could be beaten. They had won millions of dollars and enjoyed a lifestyle that most people could only dream of. But on the other hand, the returns weren't as high as they had hoped, especially once the winnings were split among all the players and investors. There were also significant risks involved, including legal troubles and personal safety concerns, which added to the overall stress of managing the operation. Kaplan decided that it was time to move on. The MIT Blackjack Team's story remains a legendary chapter in the history of gambling, but it was a chapter that needed to close. The risks had become too great, and the rewards too uncertain. Kaplan's decision to end his blackjack career was a pragmatic one, driven by the realization that the world of card counting had changed, and it was time for him to change with it. Being part of the MIT Blackjack Team might sound glamorous, but it came with serious risks and consequences. As the team's fame and fortune grew, so did the pressure from casino security. Casinos aren't fond of losing, and they started to tighten their surveillance to catch card counters. Imagine walking into a casino, trying to maintain a low profile, while knowing that security cameras are watching your every move, and pit bosses are trained to spot anything suspicious. The growing pressure was intense. Many team members had encounters with casino security that were far from pleasant. If a player was suspected of card counting, they often received a dreaded tap on the shoulder from a security guard. "Mike, casino management has decided you're welcome to play any game except blackjack," they'd say. While this might sound mild, it could be quite unsettling, especially if the guards got aggressive. Some team members were escorted out of the casinos and banned for life, which meant they couldn't continue playing and making money. The risks weren't just limited to the US. International ventures added a whole new level of danger. One story that stands out is about a team member who had just passed the test to become a big player. He and his wife, who was also part of the team, decided to try their luck in the Bahamas. Things seemed to be going well until the casino realized he was card counting. They didn't just ask him to leave, they called the police. The couple was thrown in jail, and all the money they had won, along with the team's bankroll, was confiscated. It was a stark reminder that the rules and risks varied greatly outside of the US. After this harrowing experience, that player and his wife never played for the team again. These risks and encounters took a toll on the team. The constant fear of being caught, the stress of dealing with aggressive security, and the legal dangers abroad were significant drawbacks. It wasn't just about losing money, it was about personal safety and freedom. The thrill of beating the system came with high stakes, and the consequences could be severe. The MIT Blackjack Team didn't just win money, they changed the entire landscape of gambling. Before their exploits, card counting was a niche strategy, known only to a few. But the team's success brought it into the mainstream. They showed the world that blackjack wasn't just a game of luck, but one where skill and strategy could turn the tables. The idea that a group of college students could outsmart the seemingly unbeatable casinos fascinated the public and shifted the perception of blackjack. Casinos had to up their game, implementing stricter security measures and training their staff to spot card counters. The story of the MIT Blackjack Team continues to captivate people. Their adventures have been chronicled in books, documentaries, and movies. One of the most famous is the book Bringing Down the House by Ben Mesrich, which was later adapted into the movie 21. These portrayals have kept the legend alive, inspiring new generations with the tale of how a bunch of students used their brains to beat the system. The mix of intellect, high stakes, and the glamorous yet risky world of casinos makes for a compelling narrative that people can't get enough of. But beyond the thrill and glamour, the MIT Blackjack Team story offers valuable lessons. One of the key takeaways is the importance of strategy. The team's success wasn't just about knowing how to count cards. It was about having a well-thought-out plan and executing it with precision. This applies to any venture, where a good strategy can make the difference between success and failure. Teamwork was another crucial element. The MIT Blackjack Team wasn't just a group of individuals, they were a coordinated unit, where everyone had a role to play. This collective effort was essential in maintaining their edge over the casinos. It highlights how working together, Leveraging each person's strengths can lead to greater achievements than going solo. Lastly, managing risks was a constant part of their operations. They faced numerous challenges, from the threat of being caught by casino security to the dangers of international play. Their ability to navigate these risks, even if not always successfully, underscores the importance of risk management in any endeavor. Understanding and preparing for potential pitfalls can help mitigate their impact and keep a venture on track. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.